Sup adventurers? I assume many of us run into this scenario a lot, and it is very frustrating sometimes. But even the best of us will have a tough time dealing with the situation, even the pros. I know it can get pretty tricky sometimes, but stay patient and don't worry, I got you. In this video, we are going to be going over a few key things to transform your 1v3 situations, or at least for starters, help you handle them better. You need to have a certain degree of mechanics to win your 1v3s, but from a team game perspective, sometimes just doing enough damage will help your team come out on top in a sticky situation. Now, assuming that you're up against players of the same skill level due to skill-based matchmaking, these tips should allow you to win more of your 1v2s or 1v3s. If you're up against a team with better aim and game sense than you, then these tips may serve as survivability tools that could help you prolong the fight until your teammates arrive at the scene. Keep these things in mind as they should work regardless of your aim, because all I'm covering here is strategy. Now, some of you may be inclined to think, imagine having to rely on strategy and not your mechanics. However, we all know that as humans, our greatest weapon is our brain, not our brawn. That's why humans are predators on top of the food chain. Once we master strategy and get good at using that wrinkly 3-pound cunning demon sitting inside of our heads, we will also be predators in Apex Legends. But before you whip out your R301s and storm the rank scene right now just to get aimbotted physically and DDoS mentally by cheaters, let's start from learning how to manage disadvantageous fights. Here, I'm going to be going more in depth on how to force 1v1 situations when you're engaging or being engaged on by multiple players without the help of your teammates. This is always tricky, especially if you're up against enemy teams that are more well coordinated, or simply just know that you're alone and are willing to play more aggressively to hunt you down. The first thing to keep in mind is to make sure that you're not staying in one spot for too long, and move around several locations to keep your opponents from cornering you or gaining multiple angles on you. This will also force them to continuously make coordinated pushes, which gives you time to reset the fight. What you should be aiming for is when they rush or try to chase you individually or without their full team, because this is where you score a quick knock, which instantly and significantly increases your chances at winning the whole fight. The next thing to do is to make sure you limit the available line of sight on yourself to 1 or 0 whenever possible. A lot of people panic and simply just don't manage their positions properly and move too far to make themselves vulnerable to multiple members of the enemy team, which causes them to be quickly knocked. A good way to fix this problem is to focus on positioning yourself where there's always readily available cover for you to hide behind, and be wary of your opponents pivoting to get an angle on you. Try to only peek one of them at a time if you want to peek. The last thing to start building into your gameplay is learning to prolong or reset the fight accordingly. If they have out-traded you or cracked your shields, then your priority is to at least pop a shield cell or change positions before their other teammates arrive and cover the other angles. If you cannot knock and win your 1v1 at your current spot, you should always leave that spot and pivot to a different location before the enemy reinforcements arrive. The trick here is to not distance yourself too far away from your opponents so you can swiftly re-engage them before they reset the fight as well. While they're looking for you, pop a battery or some cells before they do and try to force another 1v1 situation. Sometimes you may have a nice 1v1 that falls into your lap for you to quickly score a knock. If this happens, make sure you take advantage of your opponent's mistakes for taking a 1v1 with you. If you find that you have trouble winning your 1v1s consistently, don't worry, I will cover how to increase your chances at winning 1v1s in another video. This is a very important aspect in shooter games and especially in a battle royale. If you can, you should always be positioned higher than your opponents. Having height is always good, because it gives your opponents no opportunity to push you, unless they launch themselves into the air or climb to your position. In both cases, they are extremely vulnerable. If they choose to engage you from the low ground, they are forced to look upwards from under you, where parts of your character will be blocked by cover, and it is also hard for them to aim. If they choose to ignore you, then you can just keep shooting at them from height until you get knocks or finish the fight. High ground puts you in a strong position of control, where you can choose when you want to deal damage or heal. It allows you to control the timing and the progression of the fight, which is a huge advantage, so try to prepare yourself and your team to take the higher ground whenever possible before the fight even begins. Sometimes when you are pivoting locations or running away from multiple opponents, it's good to use verticality to prevent your opponents from gaining line of sight of you, as it takes more time and risk to move vertically than it does to move horizontally in the game. Moving vertically in buildings will grant you access to those quick 1v1 encounters, which will allow you to score those knockdowns, especially if you have superior movement compared to your opponents. Sometimes we won't have access to height or be in a position to fully utilize verticality to our advantage. In these situations, try to use your throwables to zone enemies from pushing. You can do this by chucking an arc star to block their advance, throwing a frag, which is relatively silent, as a trap to knock them away, or simply using a thermite to buy you some time for you to win a 1v1. Make sure to also shuffle your position utilizing the surrounding cover to limit your enemy's line of sight, and gain a small height advantage over your opponents by scaling those rocks, boxes, or trucks. If you know you're going to be in a close range fight soon, then prepare for it by equipping close range weapons or otherwise if you're not going to be doing so. As they say, preparation is half of the victory. Remember, the fight has already begun right when you load into the Apex match, not when you encounter the first team. Try your best to prepare your inventory and position well before you hear that first gunshot from the enemy or your team. This wraps up my video discussing how to conduct your 1v3s better, and I hope that these points made sense and help you in your games. If you enjoyed the content, please smash the subscribe and like buttons and make sure to turn on bell notifications for my future videos. I stream Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays on Twitch at around 7 PM PST right now. So if you want to chill with me or just want to chat, I would love your company over there. If you have any thoughts or questions, make sure to post them in the comments below and I'll read and respond to them. We are very close to our 500 subscriber milestone, so for the returning viewers of the channel, please do consider subscribing if you haven't already. I would greatly appreciate it. That Fast Ventures, love, peace, until next time.